that myth. I want to correct. It is not true. Now, we do have a digital divide. There's a disparity across different neighborhoods of Brooklyn. We have 2150 county committee members that were elected. And literally less than 100 are on this Zoom right now. Why? Well, outside of the long hours, but even from the beginning, people do not have access. We have a number of district leaders who, when they're trying to make a vote, they can't because they're fighting with the challenges of access to Wi-Fi and the infrastructure in their neighborhood. Many are elderly, many have disability, and some are working 2-3 jobs. So all of Brooklyn does not live a really nice, privileged life. There's a lot of working class people who want to be represented, may not have a chance because they're working, they're taking care of their families, they are dealing with the isms when it comes to economic development, when it comes to housing, when it comes to discrimination, and all the things and resources that has been stripped out to so many neighborhoods. And if you look at the demographics that are on this Zoom, it's not necessarily a representation of all of Brooklyn. Especially in this pandemic, when we have 2150 elected county committee and less than 100 are on a Zoom, that definitely tells you there's a problem. And to limit it to 20, to me, is a way of disenfranchising and a subliminal way of really taking the power of the people, because the power of the people elected county committee and district leaders to represent them in the event they cannot make a meeting. As an assemblywoman, as a district leader, I organize my county committee members. We have meetings, and many times, guess what? They cannot make the meeting, but they trust me. And many of them, sometimes they don't want to give me their proxies, they give it to someone else, and that is just as fine. But we cannot create a system where it's only going to be 100 people representing Brooklyn. It makes no sense. We need 2,150 people representing Brooklyn, and in this current condition, it's needed by proxy. So I will not vote for this because I think it's a subliminal way to not allow our voices to be heard, which is one of the reasons why I am chair. I am chair to make sure that all corners of Brooklyn are represented, not one faction. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that the next speaker will be our author of this amendment, Mariana Alexander. However, before I pass the floor to her, I do want to let everyone know that in calling on people to speak, I am not going to be responding to nasty and snide comments. If you intend to make a comment or to debate the matter, please indicate as much by simply stating, I have a debate comment or I have a question regarding the question before us. But snide comments are not going to be responded to. And I'm also going to ask our member that continuously puts repeats of the same message and clogs up our Q&A system, as well as our chats, to please stop. Otherwise, I will have to remove you from the meeting because you are a hindrance to us performing the work that is before us. We are all taking this very seriously. This is an open dialogue and debate about a very serious matter. And so I need us all to behave ourselves with decorum and to make sure that we are not usurping the process that we have just put together. We have moved through over 6 amendments at this point. Please, I'm asking everyone to conform their behavior and to pull back. We understand that everyone is not happy with every idea that is presented here tonight, but we are all adults and we will discuss these matters as adults. So at this time, we are bringing the author of this amendment forward, Ms. Mariana Alexander, who has the floor. Ms. Alexander.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to respond. I actually see this proposal as a way to deepen representation and enfranchisement, because when you reduce the number of proxies any one person can hold, that means people are being more intentional when they give their proxy to someone else. It is not at all limiting someone's ability to be represented at a meeting if they can't make it to the meeting, to the first district leader's point. Obviously, having some sort of proxy system is important, in place is important, because sometimes people can't make it to the meetings because of other duties. And so that is not proposing to get rid of that. It is just proposing to reduce the number one person can hold. And I'll give the example of the Bronx, who actually doesn't have any proxies at all. You can only give your proxy if you've come to the meeting and then have to leave at a certain point. You're allowed to leave your proxy with someone. And that is a very diverse borough, just like Brooklyn. And I think what we need to try to get away from, in the spirit of democracy, in the spirit of representation, is the old system. And this is not a knock on former leader Cedillo, but if I remember correctly, in the 2018 September organizational meeting, he had about 600 proxies in his pocket, and therefore played an outside role in the kind of business of the meeting. Obviously, that's not a problem because people are willfully, signing their proxies over to him. But I think by just making this change, we'll get county committee members to be a little bit more intentional when they're signing their proxy over if they're not able to attend the meeting. So that's all. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. At this time, we have one more speaker, and then we will move forward. We will proceed to the vote. Theasin Fall, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. I just want to make sure that I heard this correctly. So how would limiting the amount of proxies that one person could carry limit representation? It's just, instead of it going by default, just because people are, as previously stated, do have multiple jobs, cannot sit on a meeting for 12+ hours on multiple days. Instead of my proxy automatically going to my district leader, who I may or may not agree with, maybe I would reach out to a county committee member that understands the way I feel about politics, about how I feel about the county, and how the body politics conducts itself. I would intentionally let them know that I would not be in the meeting. I just feel like that would be a better way to go about it, instead of like maybe I don't catch an email sent at 9 p.m. for a meeting the following day, and automatically, whether or not it was done intentionally or not, would my vote would go to my district leader. I think I would be better served by um, having my proxy go to somebody that I intentionally informed and not uh, by happen chance, basically.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And at this time, there are no further questions or debate. We're going to proceed to the vote. This is Alexander Amendment 2, and at this time, the ballot is opening. Please go to your Simply Voting platform, refresh the browser twice, and you will be able to vote in this election. This election is with regards to Alexander Amendment 2. Wait a sec. Good evening, members. The ballot is currently open. Please go to your Simply Voting platform, click the refresh button twice, and you will be able to access Alexander Amendment 2. Please, please go to the platform and vote. It looks like we're actually almost everyone has voted already. We're going to keep this open for approximately another 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Actually, that'll take us to the 5-minute mark. So we'll be there, and then we'll close this out, and we'll be back, and we'll move on to Amendment 3. So thank you very much. minutes. Dear members, we have hit the 5-minute mark. We are going, it looks as though everybody online has voted. So thank you very much. We are going to close this ballot and move on to Amendment 3. At this time, the chair recognizes Mariana Alexander to read the amendment. If adopted, the rule will be amended to read as, and the floor is yours, Ms. Alexander.
Can the chair please advise that, is this amendment regarding the financial governance?
The amendment that we have before us reads as requires that changes to the party rules be approved by a majority vote of the county committee or unanimous vote of the executive committee. However, we need you to read it in the form that it will actually be amended and passed.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Okay, so Article 10, Section 1. These rules may be amended from time to time by a majority of the members of county committee present at a meeting at which there is quorum, or when the county committee is not in session, by a unanimous vote of the members of the executive committee present in person or by proxy at an executive committee meeting at which there is quorum. Any proposed amendment to these rules must be provided in writing, electronic, or physical to the secretary of the county committee. Any proposed amendment received up until 21 days before the organizational or regular meeting must be included in the notice of the meeting and posted on the Kings County Democratic Party website and must be voted on at that meeting described. Any amendment proposed subsequent to 21 days prior to the meeting will be voted upon at the following meeting.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt Alexander Amendment 3? Ms. Shaquana Boykin has moved to adopt Alexander Amendment 3, and it has been I believe that we have it is properly seconded by, I thought it was Partnow, Sue Ann Partnow. Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. No. It just. No, it keeps coming up. Oh, I'm sorry. That was not Sue Ann. That was I read the wrong message. It was actually Martha Bryce Gaillard. Sorry. So the minute should be the minute should reflect that this is properly seconded by Martha Bryce Gaillard. It has been moved and seconded that we adopt Alexander Amendment 3. Is there any debate? Seeing no further questions or debate, we may now proceed. Carmen, could the chair ask the movement to clarify how the amendment is different from the current rules? Okay. Ms. Alexander, we have a question for you. Can you please clarify how the amendment is different from the current rules?
Yeah, gladly. So the key difference, so currently or in the prior rules,
just need to know, how is this amendment different from the current rules?
So this amendment says that the rules can be amended by the county committee. That's not anything new. And by unanimous vote of the executive committee.
And how is that different from the current?
The old rules say that only a majority vote is required at the executive committee level to amend the rules.
So the old version says that a majority vote by the executive committee is the only way to change the rules?
So under the old rule,
Asking you to, so in presenting a rules change, the requirement is normally, this is FYI, the requirement is normally that it is that the presentation to the body includes what the amended language is, but it also identifies what's being repealed and or deleted. So I guess what he's asking you to clarify is what the differences are. And that's what we're asking. That's kind of what he wants you to just make it real simple for him. Thank you.
okay, so yeah, the key difference is that while under old rules, the executive committee could change the rules with a majority vote. Under these rules, it requires a unanimous vote of the executive committee.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And just to make everything clear for people in the procedure of how this works, in order to, I'll do a clarifying statement after this. I'm sorry. Is there any other debate and or questions? Common, I did ask your question. Are you also asking, do you now want to speak? Can we give him a mic? Okay, Common Yeager, the floor is yours. Your mic is being turned on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
The reason I asked the chair to pose the question to the movement is I've been listening to the movement's proposals in this meeting and in the last meeting, and I recognize the good place from which they come and the enormous amount of work that was put into it. But for this particular motion and for the previous ones, and I suspect for the ones that will come subsequent here too, what the members of the county committee are not seeing is the actual text of the language, so that those of us who are looking at the rules, I'm looking at Article 10, Section 1 right now, as it is currently written. I can't see what the movement would like to change it to. I'm hearing the description, and I recognize that the parliamentarian has held that this is an okay method of making this proposal because he understood the intent behind it, which is fine and fair, and I don't challenge that at all. But what I understand now from the movement is that there's an objection to non-unanimity. In other words, if a proposal is made and every single member of the executive committee were to support it but one, it shouldn't be accepted. I'm not sure what kind of government body, what kind of political party body, what kind of anybody would want to have a proposal in place where it requires absolute unanimity, lockstep, that we all have to agree 100% of the time, and if we can't agree 100% of the time, it won't pass. I mean, there is a concept of majority rules, and the rules as currently written require a majority to rule. Unless I'm mistaken, and Madam Chair, in your inquiry to the movement, she indicated that, I think I'm understanding it correctly, she's looking for unanimity in order to change the rules. I intend to vote no on this for that reason. I'm a member of the council. I think that it would be awful if the city council were to pass things only unanimously. And Madam Chair, you're a member of the assembly, and I think you would think the same. We want people to agree with us, but we also want to hear the other side. And it's okay if people disagree with us from time to time. I think we're seeing that here tonight or this morning. And that's why I asked for that. And I'm excited to hear the rest of the proposals for the same reason, but I'll leave my comments with respect to this. And I thank the chair for the floor.
Thank you, council member. And at this time, so I'm sorry, I originally just called him by his first name, but that was me being very familiar. So I'm sorry, council member. I do want to just acknowledge that we have a few people in the queue. We have John Joyner, and then Mariana Alexander, and then we'll be moving there'll be no further debate, and we'll proceed to the vote. Those are the people remaining in the queue: John Joyner, and then Mariana Alexander. Mr. Joyner, the floor is yours. Mr. Joyner, please unmute yourself.
Okay, Madam Chair, thank you. So yes, I just briefly want to say that I do feel that allowing for unanimous decisions or unanimous votes for any type of new growth, new change that we want to see, it may apprehend that. So for that, I would vote no. And yeah, that's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mariana Alexander, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I just want to respond to those two comments. The rules that we adopted at the last meeting and the rules that govern this county committee are the rules of the county committee. So I do believe it makes sense that the county committee be the primary body that is empowered to amend those rules for its own self-government. The executive committee, comprised of the district leaders, is a standing committee of the county committee. It is a subcommittee. And I think it also doesn't quite make sense to have a smaller body be able to amend the rules by which the larger body is governed. However, we recognize that, things happen like a pandemic, and sometimes it doesn't make sense to convene 2,000 people to try to make a rules change. And so the unanimous vote was put in there so that the executive committee, in their capacity as leaders of this body, still has the opportunity to change the rules. But really, I guess because it requires unanimous consent, would be limited to changes that were practical, that made sense, that said, we can't meet in person, there's a pandemic, so let's meet in another method. So that was the thinking there, but I do really firmly believe that these rules are the rules of the county committee and not just of the executive committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions or debate, we are now going to proceed to the vote. The ballot is now open for the Alexander Amendment 3. Did I say that properly? Yes, Alexander Amendment 3. Please go to Simply Voting, refresh your browser, and you should be able to access the ballot for Alexander Amendment 3. We'll keep this open for 5 minutes like all the other votes. However, we are getting notes when everyone on the call has voted. So I'll let you know if we get a response before 5 minutes is up. Good evening, or rather good morning, members. The ballots are open. The ballot is open. Please go to Simply Voting so that you can cast your ballot. And also, I just want to address a couple of concerns that I saw in our Q&A. For the passage of all of the rules, we're using the same format for each amendment, which is a presentation of the new language. We're asking for it to be moved and properly seconded. We open it up for debate. Then we move to the vote. We proceed to the vote. It is the same format, and that is the format we will continue to use for each amendment that comes before this body this evening. We have 3 more amendments, and then I believe that we'll be very much nearing the end of our meeting. So we'll have a couple of reports, unfinished business, new business, and the adjournment. That's what's left on our agenda. So I just wanted to let you know there's a light near the end of the tunnel. This ballot before us is only going to be open for 1 more minute. So if you have not yet voted, please make sure that you go to Simply Voting and you access it. And just as a reminder, only those elected members who have pre-registered by December 15th were sent credentials to participate in these elections. They're the only newly elected members who are eligible to receive credentials to actively vote live in this meeting. You must have pre-registered by December 15th. It is now 12:30. This election is closing, and we are going to move on to Alexander Amendment 4. The chair recognizes Mariana Alexander to read the Amendment 4, that if adopted, the rule will be amended to read as, and the floor is yours, Ms. Alexander.
Thank you. So Article 5, Section 16, a new Section 16 to read, the Executive Committee shall approve an annual budget for the County Committee. So there's multiple parts to this. So I'll just say that one in plain language. The idea is that the Executive Committee would have some oversight over an annual budget for the County Committee. The second part pertains to Article 6, Section 5.4. The Committee on Finance shall ensure compliance with the budget approved by the Executive Committee and have the duty to procure the necessary funds to defray the expenses of the County Committee. The Executive Committee and the Committee on Finance shall meet at least once per year for this purpose. The meeting shall be recorded, and within 5 days of the meeting, the recording shall be made available to the County Committee members. The committee shall keep an accurate account of all monies received by it and pay the same to the treasurer of the County Committee. So the key change there is that the Executive Committee and the Committee on Finance would meet at least once a year to review expenditures and revenues of the committee and compare it against what the budget had been. And that those meetings would be viewable by members of the County Committee. The next section pertains to Article 4, Section 4B of the rules. Within 60 days after each calendar quarter, the treasurer shall make to the Executive Committee and the Committee on Finance a written report of income and expenses for such quarter. Said report will be published on the KCDC website. So the kind of tweak there is that treasurer's report also goes to the Committee on Finance as well as the Executive Committee, and that it be published on the website. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have Aaron Maslow. He's making the motion to adopt this amendment. Is there a second? Brad Reed seconds the motion to adopt this amendment. It is moved and seconded that we adopt Alexander Amendment 4. Is there any debate? Any questions or debate? Seeing no further questions or debate, we may now proceed to voting. At this time, we are going to ask that the ballot be opened for Alexander Amendment 4. I'm sorry, is there somebody that we're? Okay. Everyone can proceed to their, oh goodness, what is this thing called again? Voting, simply voting. I'm sorry, I know I've said it a million times tonight. Please proceed to simply voting platform, refresh your browser, and vote in the open election. It is regarding Alexander Amendment 4. Two more. remind everybody. Members, we're gonna close this in 1 minute, this ballot in 1 minute. Please make sure that you have cast your vote. Simply voting. We will be closing it. Oh, I'm sorry, I got a little bit ahead of myself. We have a couple more of these. At this time, we are officially closed, and we are now going to proceed to Alexander Amendment 5. The chair recognizes Mariana Alexander to read Amendment 5 in the form, if adopted, the rule will be amended to read as follows. Ms. Alexander, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this pertains to Article 3, Section 2C of the rules. In addition thereto, there shall be a meeting of the County Committee upon 14 days' notice to the members thereof in September or October in each year in which there is not an organizational meeting as described in Article 3, Section 1, and in March of each year. The Executive Committee, for good cause shown, by its majority vote is hereby authorized to reschedule any meeting required by this section, but it is obligated to hold a minimum of 2 county committee meetings per calendar year. So really, this is just returning to the rules prior to January of 2020, I believe, when we used to have 2 meetings per year, and opens up those meetings to things in addition to public policy. And requires a longer lead time of notice. So instead of a 5-day notice, requires 14-day notice so that we can all plan ahead a little bit more. And I believe those are the key provisions. You know, someone pointed out that we're now going to be doing petitioning in March, so it might make sense for the Executive Committee to, you know, hold it a little later in the year, or not in March, but we would still come together at least two times a year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Is there a motion to adopt Alexander Amendment 5? Is there a we have Ms. Campbell, who is moving to adopt Alexander Amendment 5. Can we get a second? Stephen Wagner has properly seconded. It is moved and seconded that we adopt Alexander Amendment 5. Is there any debate? Any questions or debate? I don't see it. Oh, I'm sorry. Please forgive me, Seamus. Seeing that there are no further questions or debate, we may now proceed to vote. I'm sorry, is Janice raising her hand to make a statement? I'm sorry, before I move on to proceed to vote, please give the floor to Ms. Janice Henderson. The floor is yours.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I approve this amendment. Having just one meeting a year, the organizational meeting, means that we're not an effective county committee because we don't do anything else besides that one meeting. So in order to move forward to get do other things besides that one meeting, we do need a second meeting. So I approve the amendment that Mariana is requesting.
Thank you. However, seeing no further questions or debate, we are now going to proceed to vote. We're asking for the ballot to be opened. Please go to your Simply Voting and refresh your browser at this time. You should see the election open and you should be able to submit your ballot and vote. Thank you. It seems that everyone on our call has already voted. So now we are going to close out this vote. It'll be closing in the next minute. So please make sure you have voted. Hello, everyone. At this time, we're moving on to Amendment 6. I'm sorry, Alexander Amendment 6. The chair recognizes Mariana Alexander and asks that she read the amendment if adopted. The rule will be amended to read as follows. And Ms. Alexander, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this has to do with Article 3, Section 7 of the rules. And it's actually just deleting that entire section as it pertains to the organizational meeting under COVID. So it's no longer required. Also in that provision is the automatic proxying of proxies to district leaders without county committee members' affirmative consent that that's what they want. And so that is also deleted as well.
Miss, I'm sorry, can you just read what is being repealed? Because it sounds like you said you're getting rid of the entire section. Can you just read the entire section that's being repealed?
Yes.
Into the record for us? Thanks.
Okay. Emergency provisions, this is again, Article 3, Section 7. Emergency provisions during COVID-19 pandemic to enable the organization and operation of the Kings County Democratic County Committee while achieving the greatest degree of social distancing, complying with state and local laws and orders limiting the size of public gatherings, sheltering in place, and reducing exposure to mail depositories and mail carriers, while maintaining the integrity of its voting processes with transparency and public disclosure, the following special provisions shall supersede the 5 provisions of each and every rule set forth within these rules and the corollary provisions of the election law, except for special meetings of the county committee or a subcommittee thereof, called to make a Democratic Party nomination in a special election or to fill a vacancy in nomination due to death, resignation, or disqualification of a candidate for public office, and wherever else a nomination shall be made for public office other than for justice of the Supreme Court and other than by primary election. A, except as further provided herein, each member of the executive committee elected as a state committee member or to fill a vacancy for a state committee within their respective assembly district at the organizational meeting. I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Shall hold, cast, and carry the votes and represent the members of the county committee within their respective assembly districts at the organizational meeting thereof, and each meeting subsequent thereto. If both members are in attendance at any such meeting, each shall cast half the votes of such absent county committee members. If only one executive committee member from the assembly district is in attendance, then that member shall cast all the votes from the absent county committee members. B, members of the county committee may attend, vote, and be entitled to the privileges of the floor at every meeting thereof held during their term of office. And if they do so attend, their vote will not be attributable to or held by their respective members of the executive committee. To the same effect, members of the county committee may issue a proxy to any other member of the county committee, and by doing so, their vote will not be attributable to or held by their respective members of the executive committee. Such proxy shall be signed, dated, and submitted as an original document with photocopies or facsimiles being of no force or effect. Each such proxy to be valid shall explicitly state the full names of the 2 members of the executive committee selected as a state committee members or to fill a vacancy for state committee members from the county committee members assembly district, and include the names of the new designee as a replacement. To wit, quote, I hereby designated in the place of James Doe and Mary Rowe, fictitious examples, the current voting representatives from the blank assembly district, John Q. Public, fictitious example, as my proxy to vote and otherwise act, ... end quote. C, members of the county committee may also direct in a signed and dated original document that they do not wish to be represented by their respective executive committee members to vote on their behalf. Said document to be duly filed pursuant to this section. D, the chair of the executive committee shall arrange for the meetings of the county committee to be held in physical settings located in Kings County as then permitted by law, so that duly filed original proxies and withdrawals of voting authorizations as provided herein may be examined prior to or during the deliberations attendant to those meetings, in addition to engaging in deliberative discourse and voting in an accountable and verifiable manner. The chair shall not convene any meetings of the county committee in which the voting may occur via teleconference or video teleconference to prevent the disenfranchisement of members of limited economic means and or without access to internet and smartphone technology. E, while the election law directs that the county committee organization take place on or before October 7, 2020, such meeting shall be called by the chair of the executive committee to be held in a public physical setting within 45 days after the governor or the mayor of the city of New York authorized public gatherings in excess of 500 persons. F, original proxies and withdrawals of voting authorizations as provided herein shall be filed no later than 2 full business days before any scheduled meeting with the county committee at a location and an address specified in the notice of every such meeting. The Credentials Committee of the County Committee shall meet within those 2 business days to review said documents as filed. G, a quorum of every meeting held pursuant to this section shall be the physical attendance of at least 1 member of the Executive Committee elected as a state committee member or to fill a vacancy for a state committee member from each of the 11 assembly districts casting an aggregate of 450 county committee votes. H, until authorized to conduct physical meetings to organize pursuant to section 211-112B of this section, the members of the county committee elected or deemed elected at the primary election held on June 23rd, 2020, shall be deemed seated and authorized to act as of the date of such organization, or at midnight, October 7th, 2020, whichever occurs first. I, this section shall expire upon the earlier of the public declaration that the COVID-19 pandemic has ended, or legal authorization for public meetings in excess of 2,000 attendees to be convened within the city of New York. All right, that's it. I did it.
So I just want to make it clear, because that was a long statement. You are repealing all of that. So since you could say you want to strike all of the COVID-19 rules that you have recently created, is that accurate characterization of this amendment?
That were recently created by the executive committee, specifically having to do with this meeting that we're having right now. So.
Okay, so you want to strike all of this? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a motion to adopt Alexander Amendment 6? We have Shaquana Boykin. Is there a second? Ms. Janice Henderson, seconds. It is moved and seconded that we adopt this amendment. Is there any debate? And I see Mr. Aaron Maslow. He would like to speak on this. He would like to debate and or question this Alexander Amendment number 6. Can we please give Mr. Maslow the floor?
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm trying to be brief as the hour is very late. This meeting, I don't even know whether to call it yesterday or today, but this meeting is a perfect example of why Section 7 needs to be retained. It was adopted specifically to deal with the situation of the virus. It is quite possible that if we did not have Section 7 in existence, we might not have had a quorum today. Those default votes to the district leaders provided a quorum for us to conduct business today. Moreover, nobody is forced to have their vote default to district leaders, as they can execute a document stating they decline to have the vote defaulted. Moreover, this is not a permanent rule. It clearly states it will expire at the end of the COVID-19 emergency. Should we have another meeting of the county committee during the virus, this provision is necessary, because otherwise we might schedule a meeting for which we don't even get a quorum. I urge the members of the county committee to vote no.
Thank you for your comment, Councilman Yeager. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning again to everybody. I asked the chair for the floor before I heard Mr. Maslow speak, the committee minutes from the 41st. I will just add the following. As I understand the movement, and it's very important what the chair did is to ask the movement to specify the section and to read the section because the movement had not actually circulated a draft provision, but the movement started by saying, I'd like to delete the entire section. The entire Section 7 begins with emergency provisions during COVID-19 pandemic. If that section is deleted, there are no emergency provisions during COVID-19 pandemic. There is no Section 7. Now, I'm hopeful, like everybody else, that the COVID-19 pandemic ends very quickly, but it's not going to end at the end of this meeting. And if this motion passes, we have no emergency provisions during the COVID-19 pandemic for this county organization. I'm not really sure how that makes sense. We have to have the ability to operate. We have to have the ability to run the party. We have to have the ability to do the things that are required by the election law for this organization to be able to nominate Democrats to run. As Mr. Maslow wisely pointed out, without this provision, we would very likely not have a quorum tonight, this morning. We need to have this, and I understand the point of the automatic proxies, but the automatic proxies, as Mr. Maslow said, and as so many of us know, I've been a member of 3 different assembly districts, county committees over my life. Nobody ever put a gun to my head to sign a proxy for anybody. And on the automatic proxy rule, if somebody wants to collect a proxy, solicit a proxy from someone, they could solicit a proxy. Upon presentation of a signed proxy, the district leader won't have an automatic proxy. This is just a default provision in case a particular senior citizen in a part of Brooklyn didn't get a chance to sign one. He or she will be represented at the county organization. Not everybody lives in Park Slope and Williamsburg. Some of us live in far end parts of this county. And we have a lot of people who we work for who are trying to get to participate in the party. To shut them out during the pandemic, to force people to go banging on their doors to sign original documents so they could have a proxy so that they could be represented at these meetings make no sense. It's not the time to start removing rules, I think, that govern our party that are specifically set up. And as Mr. Maslow said, with the sunset clause, that it's gone. These rules are gone as soon as the pandemic is over, as soon as there's a declaration that meetings may happen again, and we can have our 2,000 people back at a county committee meeting. I would love to see a county committee meeting, a convention with 2,000 attendees in Brooklyn, New York. So I would urge the members of this body to vote no on this, to allow the emergency provisions that are temporary in nature to remain so that the party can actually function. Let's not burn this thing down. We're trying to keep this party functioning. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We have 2 more speakers in the queue, and then we will proceed to vote. Ms. Janice Henderson, and then Mariana Alexander. Ms. Henderson, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I have to disagree with both of those gentlemen. They're saying that the Brooklyn Democratic Party is in a bubble of its own, that only COVID affects the Brooklyn Democratic Party. So what are corporations doing? What are other associations doing? Have they stopped holding meetings because of COVID-19? What about employers and companies? Are they holding are they stopped doing business because of COVID-19? So that reasoning is not really not a good reason to have this section of the rules. Secondly, there was a lawsuit that we had to have in order to get this organizational meeting back on the books. Thirdly, the fact that both of these meetings went over 12 hours long has nothing to do with the technology. It has to do with the way it was held and used for these 2 meetings. I've never heard of meetings going for 12 hours. That's, I don't know, because the inexperience of the people who are holding the meeting, but it should not have taken more than 12 hours to hold this meeting. And the fourth thing I want to say is that I have to remove my vote from the district leader in order to use my vote. Voting is a basic provision of the US Constitution. Why do I have to grab my vote back? I don't understand that either. And that's crazy. So I want people on this line at this meeting to vote against this section. First of all, the lawsuit already wiped out the section. So let's make that, let's get it off the books, dot our I's and cross our T's. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. Ms. Alexander?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. So to Councilmember Yeager's first point, I do not believe we need these special provisions in order to hold meetings during COVID. They don't add any kind of necessary element for us to continue to meet. your concern about quorum is certainly heard. I would point out that we did, I believe, and I was a member of the Credentials Committee, collect enough paper proxies, so not automatic proxies in this meeting, to more than meet quorum. So I don't see any reason to think that that would change for future meetings. And certainly it would be a good opportunity for us to all engage with our county committee neighbors to make sure that we did have enough proxies to meet quorum if that was necessary. And Janice got at this, but I just wanted to make the last point. You're talking about, say, you know, an example of an elderly person who maybe wouldn't have the opportunity to sign over their proxy to someone. But that argument cuts both ways, right? Because you're also saying that, you know, in order to fully exercise their rights of enfranchisement, they also need to be able to have the opportunity to revoke that proxy. So the concern should be on both ends of that deal. And the requirement that we bring a physical original copy to Mr. Maslow's house by noon on a Monday did not speak to this general concern about enfranchisement. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hearing no further questions or debate, you may now proceed to vote. I'm sorry. At this time, hearing no further questions or debate, we may now proceed to, oh, we do have one more. I'm sorry, I missed. I'm going to call on our chair, Bernice Bouchard. We have a little bit of technical difficulty, but the next speaker will be the last speaker will be Chair Bouchard. Thereafter, we will proceed to vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. First, I would like to address, you know, this was a very hard decision when we're trying to figure out how we're going to organize. And to both sides of this rule and equation, I think there were some concerns. There were some concerns of having a meeting in person where it would be very difficult to have people there, especially in the pandemic rule, where we're restricted to 50 people at the time. And then we also had an issue with digital divide, as many of you know. And we all know that in some neighborhoods, residents probably have better infrastructure, better access to technology, better access to internet, whereas some other neighborhoods, they're continuously battling access to technology. So that was one of the concerns in postponing having a meeting. But quite frankly, I can tell you that I'm happy we had the meeting. I'm happy that we found a way to have a meeting. Although the number of participants I would have loved to expect would have been at least 50%, but it was expected because of the digital divide. But okay, it's fine because it happened, we made it happen, and now we're here. In terms of the proxies, I heard Ms. Henderson talked about, and first of all, I want to say, Ms. Henderson, I've heard you speak. I've seen the things that you're doing in the community, and I commend you, and I look forward to working with you. I really like you, by the way. So I look forward to working with you. I actually asked someone about you, and I'm seeing the things that you're doing. And so to your point about proxies, in this particular rule, it didn't take away a person's right to proxy. The ability to proxy already had existed. So if a district leader had a weighted vote of votes of representation. And if a person did not want that particular district leader to represent them or wanted to proxy it off to someone else, that aspect of proxy still remained. So nothing changed. And the reason why that was instituted was because most of the district leaders, they're the ones who are filling the vacancies. They're the ones who are actually encouraging many members to join county committee. So it's one group anyway, you know, it's just one family. So I think that is in the light that people were thinking of it. I also want to say that I felt that there were a number of us who actually benefited from this rule because we needed to get a quorum. District Leader Shaquana Boykin, she carried the most proxies, 200 to 300 proxies, and every single assembly district was issued to her. So I think this was an opportunity that everybody benefited from because they wanted to represent people not only in the district but across Brooklyn. So I think that at least that part of the bill or the rule worked. And we know that many other parts of the rule, there was a court order that rejected part of the rule. So I'm sure the rules will be amended to reflect the court order, which is what our parliamentarian had mentioned earlier. I also want to say that this was a very challenging endeavor. Having a Zoom meeting with a body that when we do gather, there's always seems to be a tension because I've been a district leader for 10 years. And whenever I go into that auditorium of Kingsborough or St. Francis, or wherever we would hold the county committee meetings, it was just a shouting and screaming match. And so it was very difficult to take that model in a very short period of time during a pandemic and incorporate a complex proxy weighted vote system to address rules amendments, of which there were some controversy over as well, and just kind of putting everything all in one meeting. And yes, the last week meeting was not a good meeting, but it gave us an opportunity to see where we could fix things, rehabilitate. As mentioned, we take full responsibility. The chair at that particular time, he resigned. We got a new chair, and I'm sure everybody is pretty pleased with this chair who has kept the structure and the matter of the business continuing. We had hired an accountant who, although there was a little bit of hiccups, again, it was the first time executing, but we eventually got the program running and were able to tabulate votes. We were able to get a parliamentarian, which showed us what the importance of why we need a parliamentarian in Robert's Rules of Order. And it was ironic how the same group of people who was fighting for Robert Rules of Order and structure was trying to strike it down. And then we're talking about democracy. We're talking about not taking things personal. I mean, I felt that we're just fighting to fight. I'm a new county leader, and I tried my darnest to be unified, to raise money, to bring transparency, accountability. You can look at my records, you can look at my campaign finance. I have 5 degrees, I'm in law school right now. I've lost a baby, I'm a Black woman. My bill for my son, because I had to deal with Black maternal care issues, was finally passed into law today, which gave me strength to carry and move this meeting. I have been through a lot, but still, I needed to keep my strength for this party, to unify this party. A lot of you may not know me, but I hope you get to know me. And some of the rules that we have made in the past, okay, I get it. Maybe it was against the law. It was against the law, like filling the vacancies in the executive committee. We were trying to find a way to make it easier for our party, but we got it. And so we continue. We keep it moving. We are not perfect. So I believe that although we had some hiccups, this meeting today was a well-run meeting where people can talk about policies, about each of the amendments. They can debate. They can talk about future forums, public policy forums. So I just wanted to just give you a little clarification on where we're at, why we had 2 meetings, and happy that we were given another chance to make this a legitimate meeting. And going forward, now that we have the models in place, it will run smoother. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Bichat. At this time, hearing no additional comments, questions or debate, we can proceed to the vote. This is our final amendment. Thank you so much. Therefore, we can open up the ballot. Open up the election. We're proceeding to vote. It is Alexander Amendment 6. The ballot is open. Please access your ballot on Simply Voting platform, refresh your browser, and as soon as you vote, we have 3 or 4 more items to attend to. Thank you very much for your patience with this meeting and for attending to all of the important matters that have been before us. This ballot is going to close, and we started at 1:15 in 4 more minutes. If we get word that all of you have voted before then, we will close it a little bit sooner. Democrat. Everyone, we are extremely close. Please access your site and vote. We're going to close this in 1 minute. Thank you. Good morning, members. We have closed the election. Oh, I'm sorry. Hello, members. We have completed our election. Alexander Amendment 6 has just closed. And so I'm very happy to report that now we are prepared to move on to the reports of our standing and special committees. The Kings County Democratic Task Force on Gender Discrimination and Representation has submitted their report and recommendation. It is being submitted for informational purposes. And I believe a copy has been sent to all registrants alongside their meeting notice. If not, you can also access it through the link that was included in last night's email. And that was submitted by its chair, Aaron Maslow, who's the chair of that committee. And then now we'll get a financial report from our chairperson, from our chair, Rodney's Bouchard.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to just quickly go over the Kings County, Democratic County profit and loss, financials. First, everyone, I have to tell you that when I came into this position in January, I came into a position where the Treasury was at a negative. Again, I worked really hard to raise money. We raised over 375,000 at the beginning of the year, and then the pandemic happened. One of the things as we push forward with our financial governance, I would love to see the county committee body take participation in raising money. I think of the executive committee as the board of directors and the county committee as the shareholders. And a lot of times the weight of raising funds is only from the executive committee. So as we progress in our financial governance, I would like to see more participation from everybody. Low dollar fundraising. I think everybody, every shareholder should take part in investing. Raising money, sometimes single-handedly for all of Brooklyn is a lot, and probably was not expected from a woman. So, housekeeping receipts, 364. We started earlier this year when I came in. This was a fundraiser I had, Governor Cuomo, and a number of people in February. As you can see, the expenses, we had a total insurance that included liability of $6,838.50. We had other expenses like professional fees, mailing, payroll, mailing, printing, reproduction, things of that nature. You can see the bulk of our expense is from payroll, which is for our executive director and our deputy director, Jeff Feldman, and Jonathan Harkavy. The vast majority of the people who work in county are volunteers. It's again, people always say it's a thankless job. You can see that for me, I am not a frivolous spender. I do not like to spend. You can see it on my campaign finance as well. I don't spend, I raise money. And we had some high expenses, which I thought was unnecessary, like rent. The rent was I don't want to say too damn high, I'm gonna say too damn high. And there was no reason why we're spending too much money on rent. We are negotiating our rent expenditures, especially after the pandemic. We have not been in the office as much. Rent is about 21,794. Can you scroll down? Okay, thank you. Okay, and you can see, a little bit of money from social media, web design. These are recurring fees throughout the whole year. We had implemented a new social media platform for a very long time. Connie really didn't communicate. I know I see a lot of people communicating to the Twitter account, Facebook account, and again, it's still a progress. Change is hard, ladies and gentlemen, change is hard. And we're certainly committed to bringing change, getting a little bit more flexibility in our digital use in terms of communication, having a profound communication platform. So this is the year to date. Right now, our net income is at 151,000. We recently had a fundraiser via Zoom where we had the Senator Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Letitia James, Carolyn Maloney, and a number of other highly regarded elected officials who serve as hosts for the purpose of inviting people, our community people, union members. A lot of the union members support county, so it was very supportive. We raised, I believe, north of 100, more than that. I think maybe 100, 150. I have to check that. I'm sorry, I don't have the receipts with me. I would have to ask the accountant and and our finance chair, who's Joe Bover. We are committed to hold finance committees. We do have a finance board on the executive level, and we have met a couple times to find strategic ways in how we're going to raise money, but really how to get the members of our county committee involved in raising money. Next slide, which is just September, yes. Again, this is just a snapshot of the profit and loss from September through November. We had receipts of 31,000. And here are some of the expenses for the month. And can you show the balance sheet? Okay, the balance sheet kind of gives us a snapshot of, you know, our current assets. Those are like, you know, cash flows or things with value. And that we have our liability, which is things that we owe. And as you can see, coming into this as the party chair, I recognize that we had some outstanding current liabilities that's yet to be paid out. And you can see that county there was a lawsuit, and there's some attorney fees that has accumulated due to the lawsuit. I mean, we had some lawsuit recently, but this is a lawsuit that existed before me coming into as county chair. And it shows there's a total liabilities. Of course, we're hoping to negotiate the liabilities out. Everybody's struggling. So we're trying to do our best. But again, as I'm trying to build a unified county, going to school, being an assembly person, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I'm trying to make sure that we're financially whole. And I'm trying to raise money as much as possible to keep our county whole. That's petitions, that's mailings, that's keeping the payroll for our executive director and our deputy director. So that's just a report, and just want to keep it short. Yes, all right. Any comments we can definitely some other time. I think we're trying to move on with the meeting. Yeah, this is filed for information. Thank you so much, but this will be part of the transparency posting, and I think we started posting it on the website. So this is part of the transparency. People should know how much we're raising. People should know how much we're spending, how we're spending it. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There's no hidden secret, no hidden money, no under the table stuff. There's nothing, at least not under my leadership. Okay, so here you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. At this time, we have, I'm sorry, I just flipped my. Did he want to speak on his? Oh, I'm sorry. I prematurely skipped over Mr. Maslow. He does want to present the gender equity report. So at this time, I'm bringing Mr. Maslow to the floor. Mr. Maslow.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and the hour is 1:35, and I'm trying to be brief.
Aaron, are you
Yes.
still there?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We've just unmuted you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Oh, I can't hear him. Mr. Maslow?
Hello? Yeah.
Okay, now we can hear you. Sorry about that.
Okay, we're okay?
Yes, sir.
Chair Rodney's Bashat recognized that the rules of this party were outdated. In fact, they've been outdated for over 100 years because they did not take into account the fact that not everybody identifies as male or female exactly. Yes, there was a lawsuit that was commenced against the Democratic Party. And actually, it was commenced against originally the Board of Elections, because the Board of Elections was required to follow state law and party rules in invalidating petitions that did not conform to our rules. Well, Chair Bashat saw that something had to be done with it. She asked me to have a task force. There were 18 people, diverse people, age, length of experience in the party, various geographic locations, various different religions, different gender, sex, gender identities. Madam Chair, we met for 10 meetings. We had testimony from college professors, political activists, and even from members of the county committee. We had 2 days, 2 evenings of testimony. And after the conclusion of all this work of 10 meetings, we have come up with a recommendation that the party should amend its rules governing composition of the county committee. We recommend no longer having a division between men and women on the basis of 1 + 1 or 2 + 2. Our recommendation was that the rules be amended so that instead of 2 or 4, we would have either 2, 3, or 4 members based on the gubernatorial vote without regard to sex, gender, or gender identity. Everybody would run in one election if there is a contest, and the top 2, 3, or 4 win, depending on whether you're entitled to 2, 3, or 4. Nobody will have to identify themselves. Nobody would be subject to any harassment over who they are. We selected this proposal as the best out of 9 proposals. I am very proud of the work. Working together with my task force, we sent out close to, I think, about 4,000 booklets before the public forums. So everybody was informed about what this was all about. And I, on behalf of the task force, it was a beautiful mosaic of different people. On behalf of the task force, I thank the chair for recognizing the issue that needed to be addressed, Chair Bashat, and for guiding us towards meetings and the solutions. And she participated in those also. We had a great set of people who were members, and I really would be remiss if I didn't mention them. I'm going to do it quickly. Wakil Ahmed, Jared Arader, T.S. Candy, Dharma Diaz, Lisa Fain, Jennifer Fauché, Edu Ermelin, Sammy Oliveras, Julio Pena, Jesse Pierce, Josh Pierre, Annette Robinson, Doug Schneider, Josh Scala, Nancy Tong, Jason Walker, and our chair, Rodney's Bashat. This is something that the chair has accomplished that hasn't been done in my 40 years of involvement in the Democratic Party in Brooklyn, to have a serious committee holding numerous meetings, inviting the public to watch and to testify. And I think that our task force earned the respect of the public and the party for doing this. I look forward to participating in the process of the formal amendment of the rules by the party when it takes place, when it reads our report. And I yield back the remainder of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Maslow, and thank you to your committee and to the leadership for pushing this a very important matter through. Thank you for all of your work. At this time, I just want to ask, is there any unfinished business that we need to bring before the body? Seeing none, we shall move on. Under new business, I would like to, is there any new business to report? I do have a notice from the accountant. They are in the process of processing each of our elections. At this point, they are processing each of the 6 officers races, as well as the 10 amendment races that we've had. As we already learned earlier, it takes them at least 15 minutes to do each race. And I believe after the upload and cleaning, scrubbing of the list, and the new addition of almost, I'm going to say 3,000 or 4,000 people to the list, they still have about 14 remaining races. We as a body are not going to sit here and wait for them. We are going to move, I am going to move to adjourn this meeting. And we will be able to get a report from the accountant in the wee hours of this morning, which will be posted to our website as well as sent out in an email blast. I think that that is going to be our best. We're not going to, the accountant is not coming to make a statement. The accountant has delivered this information to us, which we are sharing, and we want the accountant to spend his time conducting the tabulation so that he can get his work done. Because we want to know the results of our races, and we want to make sure that when we get up tomorrow, that we are able to open our email and check our website and see those results. So this time I'm going to move to adjourn. And I now declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, Brooklyn.